Alcohol is not just a drink, it's a spiritual weapon dressed as celebration. You've been taught to see it as harmless, fun, even sophisticated. But what if the very substance you turn to in moments of joy or stress is the same thing pulling you further away from who you really are? From ancient temples to modern nightclubs, alcohol has always held power, but not the kind you think. It's not just the hangovers or the health risks. It's the way it silences your inner voice, numbs your intuition, severs your connection to the part of you that knows. And the truth is, most people never question it. They just follow the script. Drink to connect, drink to escape, drink to feel alive. But what if all it really does is keep you spiritually asleep while convincing you you're awake? You weren't born craving alcohol, you were taught to want it. And long before it became the symbol of modern nightlife and social connection, it was something else entirely. Its story doesn't begin in breweries or vineyards. It begins in the dust-covered chambers of alchemists and mystics, in rituals older than any religion you know. The word alcohol comes from the Arabic al-kul, which originally referred to a fine black powder used to darken the eyes. But to the alchemists of the ancient world, the term held a deeper, more dangerous meaning. It referred to the process of distillation, of drawing out the spirit from a substance. To them, alcohol was seen as a volatile essence, the spirit extracted from matter, the very soul removed from the body. This is why we still call alcoholic drinks spirits. It's not just a metaphor, it's etymology, it's a warning. In those days, alcohol wasn't poured casually at parties or stocked behind every bar. It was treated with a combination of reverence and fear. It was understood to be a tool, capable of altering the soul, unbinding the self from its grounded state. Used in sacred rituals, sometimes even in rites of passage, it was not meant to be consumed lightly. The ancients understood something we've forgotten, that alcohol doesn't just change your mood, it alters your energy, it manipulates your frequency, and if misused, it can open doors you might not know how to close. Today, that spiritual awareness is buried beneath centuries of cultural rewiring. What was once a substance reserved for initiates and sacred rites has become a marketing tool, a social lubricant, a casual habit that barely raises an eyebrow. But the essence of alcohol hasn't changed. Only our relationship to it has. And by losing that understanding, we've left ourselves vulnerable, not just physically, but spiritually. Because whether or not you believe in energy, it still believes in you. Whether or not you pay attention to your aura, the things you consume still impact it. And alcohol, more than most, leaves a mark. The Sumerians offered wine to their gods. The Egyptians linked it to Osiris, god of death and resurrection. The Greeks gave it to Dionysus, the god of divine madness and ecstasy. Even then, they knew this substance wasn't just about pleasure. It could transport you or destroy you. But over time, that respect gave way to indulgence. What was once symbolic of spiritual transformation became just another Friday night tradition. It lost its sacred edge. And when something once sacred becomes casual, it becomes dangerous. Some truths are too controversial to share here. That's why we created Insights Academy, a free newsletter where we go deeper into what we can't say on YouTube. Sign up using the link in the description and get a free copy of The Kabbalion while it's still available. The legacy of alcohol is far older than our modern culture and far more complex. It's been used to invoke gods, escape pain, dissolve ego, and summon visions. But just as it can open one kind of door, it can close another. You may not see it happening. That's the problem. It doesn't come as an explosion. It comes quietly, subtly, in the small disconnections. A little less clarity, a little more numbness, a weaker sense of self. And over time, that dulling adds up, until you forget what it felt like to be fully awake, until you start to believe that the person you are under the influence is the real you. But it isn't. It never was. You've probably heard that alcohol affects your brain, your liver, your behavior, but no one talks about how it affects your energy. And yet, that's where the real damage begins, beneath the surface, in the part of you that most people don't even know how to measure. You're not just muscle and memory, you're vibration, your frequency. You are, at your core, a field of energy in constant motion, radiating and receiving at all times. And alcohol interferes with that field in ways science is only beginning to understand. But spiritual traditions have been warning about for centuries. Every ancient esoteric system agrees on one thing. You are surrounded by an energetic structure, call it the aura, the biofield, the light body, that holds and expresses your spiritual vitality. This field protects you, guides you, and helps you align with your higher self. It is your unseen immune system, your spiritual filter, the space where clarity, intuition, and purpose are stored. And when you drink, you compromise it. Alcohol doesn't just fog your mind, it creates microscopic fractures in your aura, subtle tears, gaps. And through those gaps, things get in. Energies that don't belong to you, thought forms that feed on confusion, emotional debris from others, sometimes even entities that are drawn to the frequency of disconnection. This isn't fantasy, it's a pattern, repeated, observed, ignored. There's a reason why people often feel spiritually scattered, emotionally unstable, or energetically drained after drinking. It's not just dehydration or a lack of sleep. It's the weakening of the field, the loss of energetic integrity. The root chakra, the part of your energy system linked to survival and physical pleasure, becomes overstimulated. You become grounded in the material, pulled toward base desires. Meanwhile, the crown chakra, your gateway to higher consciousness, gets dulled, numbed, blocked. That's the trade. You feel temporarily alive, but spiritually cut off. The more you drink, the more that becomes your baseline, and no one warns you about this. No one tells you that every time you reach for another glass, you're not just making a choice about your evening, you're making a choice about your alignment. Alcohol teaches your body to override intuition. It silences the gut feeling. It replaces presence with performance. You may think you're connecting more deeply with people, but what's really happening is the lowering of your energetic boundaries. You're more open, yes, but not in the way that heals, in the way that exposes. You laugh louder, talk faster, feel freer, but your spiritual defenses are lowered, and the parts of you that should be protected are now vulnerable to everything around you. Over time, that vulnerability compounds. It becomes harder to meditate, harder to trust your own thoughts. You stop hearing your inner guidance, and you start believing that alcohol is the key to your confidence, to your creativity, to your sense of ease. But that's the illusion. Alcohol doesn't create those things. It temporarily suppresses the noise that blocks them, but then it creates more noise of its own, and the silence you were looking for gets buried deeper. You were never supposed to need a substance to feel whole. That idea was implanted, sold to you, repeated until it felt like the truth, but it's not. The real truth is this. Every time you drink, you're not just bending your body, you're bending your frequency. You're stepping out of alignment with your higher self. And the more often you do it, the further you drift. Some people feel this instinctively. They say they don't feel right after drinking, that something is off, something they can't quite name. That's not a weakness. That's awareness trying to speak through the fog, trying to tell you that your energy field, the most sacred part of you, is asking to be protected, not punished. And the question is, are you listening? When you drink, you open the door. But do you know what you're letting in? Most people don't. Because they've only been told half the story, that alcohol lowers inhibition, affects coordination, makes you feel more relaxed. But the truth is, what's happening behind the scenes is far more complex and far more dangerous. Because once your aura is weakened, once the protective field around your energy body is torn, you become susceptible to more than just emotional confusion. You become energetically available to forces that thrive on your disconnection. Many ancient traditions, from shamanic to hermetic to spiritist, have long warned about this. Alcohol doesn't just alter your state, it creates openings, it creates access. And not all of what steps in through those openings has your best interest in mind. Steiner called them subnatural beings. Some call them astral larvae. Others refer to them as obsessing spirits or parasitic entities. The names vary, but the pattern is consistent. There are non-physical forms that feed on confusion, fear, addiction, and spiritual detachment. And alcohol, by nature, makes you easier to reach, easier to influence. Think about the times you've seen someone black out drunk. Think about the look in their eyes, the vacancy, the unpredictability, the absence of the person you once knew. It's not just intoxication, it's spiritual dissociation. The light dims, and in its place something else animates the body. Maybe not fully, maybe not always, but enough. Enough to act without awareness, enough to create karmic damage, enough to forget what you did, and wonder why you don't feel like yourself afterward. There's a reason why stories of violence, abuse, or complete personality shifts so often involve alcohol. It's not just psychological, it's energetic. When the true self steps back, something else can step forward. The energy you emit when intoxicated, especially when it becomes habitual, acts like a beacon. It signals to whatever is out there, I am open, I am unprotected, I am no longer in full control. And the truth is, most people don't even notice. These forces don't always show up like horror movies would have you believe. Often, they embed themselves as thoughts, cravings, patterns. You think the compulsion to drink again is just a habit. But what if it's being whispered to you, fed to you, pushed into your emotional field by something that benefits from your disconnection? These entities don't need your belief. They just need your consent. And drinking is consent. It's permission, not in the legal sense, but in the energetic one. You open the door, they enter, and they stay longer than the hangover. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to show you how serious the spiritual implications really are. Because when we numb ourselves repeatedly, we don't just lose presence, we lose sovereignty, the ability to choose our path clearly, to remain aligned with the higher aspects of who we are, becomes muddied. We become more reactive, more suggestible, and less discerning of what is truly ours and what has been placed there. This is why many spiritual teachers and mystics have always warned against intoxication, not from a place of moral judgment, but from an understanding of how energy works. They knew what we've forgotten, that maintaining spiritual clarity requires vigilance, that anything that dulls the light invites the dark, even subtly. And that real protection doesn't come from hiding or fighting. It comes from remaining deeply, fiercely present. Presence is your shield. Clarity is your sword. When you're in alignment, nothing can hijack your mind or energy without your awareness. But when you drink, you trade your sword for a smile and your shield for a shot glass. You trade your sovereignty for sensation. And in that trade, you lose more than you gain. The cost isn't just a headache or regret. It's your connection, your intuition, your inner compass. No one talks about this because it sounds too strange, too uncomfortable. But if you've ever woken up after a night of drinking and felt empty, heavy, or like something foreign had brushed against your soul, you already know this truth. You've felt it, and the feeling is the proof. Alcohol is clever. That's what makes it dangerous. Because the trap isn't built on pain, it's built on pleasure. It doesn't come to you with a warning label that says, "This will pull you further from your essence." It comes dressed in comfort, in laughter, in ease. It offers a brief escape from the pressure, the noise, the weight of being human. And that's the illusion, because for a few short hours, it feels like relief. You feel lighter, more confident, more connected. The social anxiety fades, the overthinking slows down, and suddenly you're in flow. You say what's on your mind. You let loose. You feel alive. And for a moment you think, this is who I really am. But what if it's not? What if what you're experiencing isn't your authentic self breaking free, but your awareness slipping away? Alcohol doesn't free you, it numbs you. It silences the internal chatter not by resolving it, but by muting the signals. The anxiety, the fear, the doubts, those are messengers. They're telling you where you're misaligned, where you're holding tension, where you've betrayed your truth. When you drink, you don't listen to those messengers. You push them into the corner and dance in the silence they leave behind. But the silence isn't peace, it's suppression. And yet, the illusion works because it's fast. It doesn't ask for introspection or breath work or sitting with your shadow. It gives you results in minutes. And when you're exhausted by life, by your mind, by the sheer weight of pretending everything is fine, fast feels like freedom. But it's not. It's a high-interest loan you're going to pay back in energy, clarity, and self-trust. Because every time you reach for the bottle to feel better, you reinforce the idea that the real you isn't enough, that you need an external substance to unlock what's already inside you, that you need to be altered to be worthy. What makes it more complex is that alcohol can open you, temporarily. It can dissolve walls, increase emotional expression, lower fear responses. That's why so many spiritual seekers, creatives, and wounded souls are drawn to it. It feels like a shortcut to transcendence, but what you're accessing isn't higher consciousness. It's lower resistance. You're not tuning into the divine. You're just turning down the noise long enough to hear what's always been there, then forgetting it by morning. That's the cruelty of it. It gives you a glimpse of something real, then takes it away. It promises connection, but leaves you more fragmented. It offers freedom, but demands dependency. It shows you the version of you that feels relaxed, expressive, uninhibited, then convinces you that you can only meet that version again if you drink. So you come back, not out of joy, but out of craving. And that craving has nothing to do with the drink itself. It's the craving to remember yourself, to feel whole, to stop holding back. Alcohol just hijacks that longing and sells it back to you in a glass. We're not addicted to alcohol. We're addicted to the feeling of being ourselves without shame. And we've forgotten how to get there without numbing the parts of us that are scared, broken, or misunderstood. We don't want the alcohol. We want the courage. We want the permission. We want to feel something real in a world that keeps telling us to perform. And alcohol steps in with a solution. But it's a counterfeit one. Real freedom doesn't come with a hangover. Real connection doesn't vanish when the buzz wears off. And real confidence doesn't require you to abandon your clarity to find it. The illusion is convincing because it gives you exactly what you need, only for a moment. Then it vanishes and leaves you needing it again. That's not healing. That's dependency dressed up as a celebration. And if you've ever wondered why, after a night of drinking, you feel a little more hollow than you expected to, that's why. Because something real tried to emerge from within you and was immediately drowned in the flood of synthetic sensation. Your essence isn't waiting at the bottom of a bottle. It's waiting beneath your fear, beneath your story, beneath the idea that you need anything outside yourself to access joy. No one is born reaching for a bottle. That craving, that pull toward alcohol, it's not instinct. It's programming. From childhood, the world around you begins teaching you that alcohol is not only acceptable but essential. To celebrate, you drink. To relax, you drink. To mourn, to connect, to escape, there's a drink for every emotion. It becomes a script you follow without even realizing it. A ritual woven so deeply into the fabric of your life that questioning it feels like rebellion. But that's not a coincidence. That's design. From the moment you were old enough to observe, you saw it. Maybe it was the grown-ups at the dinner table, raising their glasses while the kids drank juice. Maybe it was the characters in your favorite movies, unwinding with a glass in hand after a hard day. Maybe it was the party scenes, the music videos, the ads filled with laughter, sex appeal, and confidence, all orbiting around the bottle. You absorbed the message long before you took your first sip. This is what adults do. This is how freedom looks. This is what fun feels like. By the time you're old enough to drink, the act isn't new. It's familiar, expected, even encouraged. And when you resist, you feel like the one out of sync, the awkward one, the difficult one. Because the system doesn't just sell alcohol, it sells the idea that drinking is a rite of passage, a cultural norm, a badge of belonging. Refusing the drink often feels like refusing the connection that comes with it, and that's the genius of the programming. It makes conformity feel like choice. But beneath the surface of all that marketing, all those celebrations and clinking glasses, there's a more subtle layer at work. Alcohol doesn't just mask pain, it helps you avoid facing it. And in a society that discourages emotional depth, that path of avoidance is carved early. You're taught not to feel too deeply, to suppress, to stay functional. Emotions are seen as inconvenient, vulnerability as weakness. So when you discover something that softens the edge of your discomfort, that numbs the sharpness of your internal world, it feels like salvation. What most don't realize is that emotional suppression isn't natural, it's a learned behavior. And once you learn it, you look for tools to maintain it. Alcohol is one of the most socially acceptable ones. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You just pour, sip, laugh, and move on. But the more you use it, the more your nervous system starts to rely on it. The more your identity intertwines with the sensation it gives you. You forget how to sit with discomfort. You forget how to access joy without help. You forget that you were once capable of feeling deeply and fully without a substance propping you up. And the industry knows this. They don't just sell drinks, they sell dependency. Strategically, seductively. The marketing isn't random. It's a psychological assault. Colors, sounds, slogans, they all work together to create emotional association. The cold bottle in the summer sun, the champagne at the wedding, the whiskey by the fireplace. These aren't just images, they're emotional triggers, reinforcements. They make you feel like you're missing out if you don't participate. Like sobriety is emptiness, like stillness is boredom. But it's a lie. A beautifully packaged lie that keeps billions flowing into the system every year, while your energy, clarity, and connection quietly leak out. And what makes this conditioning so powerful is that it hides behind love, behind friendship, behind family. People offer you drinks to bond, to celebrate, to show affection. It feels personal, but it's systemic, because they were conditioned too. Your parents, your peers, your mentors, they didn't question it either. Not because they're weak, but because the programming runs that deep. This isn't just your story, it's generational. That's why breaking free feels so difficult. You're not just challenging a habit, you're stepping outside a collective belief system. One that says you need a drink to relax, to connect, to be whole. But you don't. And deep down, some part of you already knows that. Some part of you remembers who you were before the world told you to numb, to cope, to fit in. That part of you is still there, waiting, watching, ready. The warnings were always there, hidden in plain sight, woven into the teachings of the ancient masters, the sacred texts, the wisdom traditions that modern life has mostly forgotten or watered down. From east to west, across cultures and continents, one message echoes again and again. Protect your clarity, because clarity is the gateway to truth, and truth is the path to liberation. And nothing dulls that clarity faster than intoxication. In the Bhagavad Gita, the pursuit of higher states of consciousness is grounded in purity of thought, body, and intention. Sattva, the quality of harmony and light, is seen as essential for spiritual progress. But alcohol, with its destabilizing effects, falls under tamas, the energy of darkness, inertia, and confusion. The drink doesn't elevate you, it drags you deeper into density. It muddies the waters of perception, making it harder to discern the real from the false. And if you can't tell what's real, how can you ever truly wake up? Buddha warned of intoxicants explicitly. Not because he wanted to police pleasure, but because he understood their impact on the mind. Intoxication clouds the path. It weakens awareness. And without awareness, suffering multiplies. The Eightfold Path, right speech, right action, right intention, demands presence. And alcohol erodes it. You might feel more free in the moment, but it's a false freedom. It's not liberation. It's sedation. The Tao Te Ching, quiet and powerful, speaks of alignment with the Tao, the natural flow of the universe. To follow the Tao is to move with balance, grace, and inner stillness. But alcohol throws you off center. It pulls you into extremes. It creates artificial highs that disconnect you from the quiet rhythms of intuition. And when you're out of sync with the Tao, life becomes a struggle. You force, you chase, you suffer. The stillness you seek slips further away. Even in Christianity, the warnings are there. If you look past the rituals and symbols, saints and mystics spoke often of the need for vigilance, of staying awake, spiritually sober, of guarding the heart and mind from anything that leads you into excess or forgetfulness. St. Augustine described drunkenness as a form of self-abandonment, a breaking of the connection between soul and source, a surrender, not in devotion, but in escapism. Islam's teachings are more direct. Alcohol is haram, prohibited, and not because of moral superiority, but because of the chaos it unleashes on the soul. In Islamic mysticism, the body is seen as a vessel of divine trust, a temple, and altering your state through intoxication is a violation of that trust. It's not about control, it's about sacred responsibility. In Hermeticism and the alchemical traditions, alcohol plays a dual role. It is revered as a solvent, a purifying force capable of extracting essence. But it is also feared, because what it extracts isn't always light. It can dissolve ego, or dissolve clarity. The alchemists knew that intention was everything. Used wisely, a substance can be a teacher. Used carelessly, it becomes a trap. They understood the razor-thin line between transformation and destruction. Yet somewhere along the way, these teachings were diluted. Modern culture cherry-picked symbols, wine at the altar, toasts at weddings, Dionysian ecstasy, but discarded the wisdom. We kept the aesthetics and lost the depth. We reduced sacred substances to social tools, and we started calling spiritual numbness fun. The world tells you that to question alcohol is to be uptight, to reject it is to isolate yourself. But the spiritual traditions say otherwise. They don't shame the seeker who says no to intoxication. They honor them, because to stay clear-headed in a world addicted to escape is an act of devotion. Not to a deity, but to your own soul. It was never about rules. It was always about resonance, about keeping your frequency high enough to stay connected. And when you drink, that frequency drops. You may not notice it right away, but your soul does. Your dreams become foggier. Your prayers feel distant. Your meditation becomes a struggle. That's not a coincidence. That's consequence. The spiritual path doesn't demand perfection, but it does require honesty. And if you're honest, you'll see it. Alcohol takes more than it gives. It promises transcendence, but delivers confusion. It mimics connection, but leaves you isolated. And in a world that desperately needs more light, more presence, more awakening, the cost of that confusion is too high. Just as alcohol leaves a mark on your body, it imprints itself on your energy. But damage isn't the end of the story. Energy isn't static. It's fluid, intelligent, and self-correcting when given the right conditions. What's been fragmented can be reconnected. What's been dimmed can be relit. The healing doesn't happen in a bottle or from a prescription. It begins when you choose to remember what alcohol made you forget, that you already have the tools. You always did. The first step is presence. Coming back into your body, not as something to escape, but something to honor. Presence doesn't require effort. It requires permission. Permission to feel, to witness what's been numbed, to sit with the discomfort that alcohol was shielding you from. That discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your signal. It's showing you where you've abandoned yourself. and it's asking to be met, not muted. From there, healing becomes a practice, not a quick fix, but a recalibration. Meditation helps restore the mind's natural rhythm, pulling you back into coherence. Breathwork shifts your nervous system out of survival mode and back into regulation. With every conscious breath, you tell your body, "I'm here now. I'm safe. We're not running anymore." But the repair goes deeper than just mental clarity. Your energetic field, your aura, needs restoration too. Practices like Reiki, sound healing, and energy clearing work because they don't just soothe your surface. They recalibrate your frequency. They patch the tears. They close the openings. They bring your energy back into wholeness. It may sound subtle, even abstract, but when you experience it, you'll feel the shift. You'll feel the space returning. You'll feel the parts of you that were scattered start to gather again. Yoga is another powerful ally, not just the stretching or the poses, but the union it facilitates between breath, body, and awareness. It aligns your physical and energetic systems. It rewires your impulses, gently dissolving the restlessness that once sought escape. And with every movement, you begin to re-establish a relationship with your body that isn't built on punishment or avoidance, but on trust. Nature plays its part too. Few things cleanse your field as quickly as the earth itself. Time in the forest, by the ocean, under the open sky. These aren't luxuries. They're medicine. They reset your rhythm. They quiet the noise. They restore the original signal. Because when you immerse yourself in natural frequency, you remember what your own frequency sounds like. And it's not chaotic. It's not desperate. It's not lost. It's calm, steady, whole. There's also the quiet, often underestimated power of intention. Your field responds to thought, to will, to choice. When you set an intention to heal, you begin to reorganize your reality around that frequency. You start noticing the people, the practices, the insights that support your path. Synchronicity increases. Resistance softens. It's not magic, it's alignment. And it begins when you decide you're done running from yourself. This healing journey isn't about shame. It's not about becoming pure or perfect. It's about becoming aware. And with that awareness, you start to see alcohol for what it really was. Not a failure, but a teacher. One that showed you what doesn't work. One that revealed the parts of you still waiting to be met with compassion instead of sedation. You don't have to regret the past to release it. You just have to stop repeating it. And when you do, something miraculous begins to unfold. Your dreams become clearer. Your intuition sharpens. Your creativity starts flowing again, not from a manic high, but from a deep well of truth. You find yourself laughing without needing to be drunk, connecting with people in ways that feel real, feeling emotions fully, and knowing they won't break you. That's what healing looks like. Not perfection, not control, but presence. The ability to stay with yourself through all states, all seasons, without needing to escape. And slowly, gently, your energy field begins to hum again. That hum is your signal. That's your alignment. That's your essence, returning. Freedom isn't found at the bottom of a bottle. It's not in the buzz, the blur, or the rush of temporary confidence. That's the trick. Alcohol packages itself as liberation. It promises to unlock the parts of you that feel caged. But it never gives you the key. It gives you an illusion of one. And while you're chasing that illusion, you miss the truth. The cage was never you. The cage was the belief that you need something outside of yourself to feel whole. The world has taught you that alcohol equals freedom, that the loosening of your tongue, the boldness, the euphoria, the laughter, that's you becoming your real self. But it's not. That version of you that only shows up under influence, that's not your essence. It's your escape route. The real you isn't hiding behind inhibition. It's waiting behind awareness. But awareness is hard. It requires you to sit with the discomfort. Alcohol helps you dodge. And we've been taught to avoid discomfort at all costs. So we drink. We numb. We chase experiences that imitate connection, hoping they'll touch something deeper. But they don't. They brush past it, light a spark, then disappear. You're left chasing the next night out, the next celebration, the next moment where it all feels light again. But each time, it fades faster. Because you're not getting closer to yourself, you're getting further. Real freedom doesn't come with a hangover. It doesn't fog your memory or blur your boundaries. It doesn't make you question your decisions in the morning. Real freedom is knowing you can walk into any room, any moment, and not need to dull who you are to belong. It's being able to feel fully, joy, sadness, tension, release, without scrambling to suppress it. It's being able to trust your own body, your own energy, your own truth without needing a filter. Think about it. So much of our celebration revolves around substances. We've confused joy with intoxication. We've forgotten what it means to celebrate from presence, not escape. Imagine dancing without needing to drink first. Laughing until your chest aches, not because your edges are blurred, but because you're truly open. Imagine intimacy that doesn't rely on lowered inhibitions, but rises from genuine connection. That's real. That's yours. And when you stop chasing the synthetic version, something remarkable happens. Your baseline rises. What used to feel dull or empty now feels full. Your sensitivity returns, not the fragile kind, but the intuitive kind. You notice more, you feel more, and what once overwhelmed you now guides you. You're not escaping life, you're living it. Fully, awake, on your terms. That's the freedom no one talks about. The freedom that comes when you no longer need to borrow joy, or rent confidence, or manufacture connection. The freedom of not needing to alter your state to feel like yourself. The freedom to be radically present, radically clear, and radically real. This isn't about becoming boring. It's about becoming sovereign. You can still celebrate, still connect, still create unforgettable moments. But now they come from within. Now they're anchored. Now they last. Because they're rooted in something real. And maybe the most powerful part of all is this. You remember everything. The conversations, the sensations, the insights. You carry them with you. No confusion, no fog, no regret. Just you, awake, present, and grounded in your truth. You stop needing alcohol not because you're forcing yourself to abstain, but because you genuinely outgrow it. It no longer matches your frequency. It no longer offers anything you can't give yourself. You realize that the version of you once chased in a drink has been with you the whole time, quietly waiting, patiently watching, and now finally free. This journey has never really been about alcohol. That was just the symbol, the stand-in for all the ways you've been taught to shrink yourself, to silence your intuition, to numb your knowing. Every time you reached for a drink to feel something different, to become someone bolder, what you were really doing was chasing a memory of what it felt like to be whole. And that memory was never gone. It was just buried. Alcohol is one thread in a much larger web, a web designed to keep you disconnected from your essence. Because a person who remembers who they are doesn't fall into line. They don't buy what they're told to need. They don't seek validation in things that poison their body and dull their spirit. They become clear, unshakable. And that kind of clarity threatens systems built on confusion. So ask yourself, who benefits when you stay foggy? Who profits when you think you need a drink to relax, to socialize, to be lovable, to be free? The system doesn't care if alcohol helps you cope. It only cares that you keep coming back for more. That you never stop long enough to realize you don't need it. That you stay just numb enough to avoid asking the deeper questions about your purpose, your pain, your power. But once you see through the illusion, you can't unsee it. And that's when real change begins. Not through shame, not through discipline, but through awareness, through truth. And the truth is, you are far more powerful than you've been led to believe. You don't need alcohol to feel whole. You don't need anything external to access peace, connection, joy, or strength. It's all already in you. It always has been. The world might not support this path. You might feel alone at first, walking away from the rituals you once shared with others. But solitude is not the same as isolation. In that space, something new emerges. You begin to hear yourself again. You start to trust the signals. Your dreams sharpen. Your body relaxes. Your energy becomes magnetic, not because you're performing, but because you're aligned, and you're not alone. More and more people are waking up, questioning the scripts, letting go of the substances, the habits, the beliefs that kept them in a holding pattern. We're not just healing, we're remembering, reclaiming the clarity that was always ours to begin with. And the more you return to your natural state, the more you realize this is freedom, not the escape kind, the embodied kind. This is the part they don't teach. This is what doesn't go viral. Because the power that comes from clarity can't be marketed. It can't be sold. It can only be lived, day by day, breath by breath, with presence, with courage, with integrity. And if you've made it this far, then you already feel it. That pull, that truth beneath the surface, that voice inside saying, you're ready, not to be perfect, but to be honest, to be clear, to be sovereign. Don't let that voice fade again. Don't trade your clarity for comfort, and don't wait for permission to start living from your center. You've already given enough of your energy away. It's time to bring it home. If you're serious about reclaiming your clarity, there's a place for you to go deeper. Sign up for Insights Academy. The link is below. You'll get access to what we can't say here, and a free digital copy of the Kybalion to deepen your journey. The cost of staying asleep is too high. This is your invitation to rise. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting. I understood it.